racism is an American issue. It's a global problem. A little disclaimer, this topic is very difficult to talk about in my own language in German, but also in a foreign language in English, obviously. So if I'm stumbling a little bit or there are a lot of breaks when I talk because I'm thinking a lot, that's only because I'm trying to think of the right words that portray my thoughts and my opinion as accurately and understandably as possible. So I do apologize in advance if that is a little bit more difficult to follow than it usually is, just because I'm really careful of the words that I choose. Hello beautiful people, and welcome back to another video. My name is Lisa Marie, and if you are new here, this channel is all about inspiration and living your best life. So you want to subscribe for more inspiring videos like this one. This week I want to talk about a different topic, a more serious one, which is the current situation in the United States. I usually speak about spirituality and the law of attraction and how you can live your best life, but I do feel like I have to address what's going on in the United States right now on this channel. I know I'm German, I'm not American, but I feel like this topic concerns me as well. I've done a video like this in German, but then I was thinking I also want to share my opinion and my thoughts with my non-German speaking audience. So this is why I'm making the same video in English this time, just so that I can have a conversation and a dialogue with everyone who's not necessarily a German speaker. Also, I've lived in the United States for a little bit, so this whole topic is really close to my heart. It touches me in a different way, but I feel like even if you have not lived in the United States and you are European, it's still something that you should think about and talk about, because racism is an American issue. It's a global problem. But what's actually happening? What's the situation like? So the United States have been suffering a lot from COVID-19. The United States had over 100,000 deaths, especially in big cities, and the country seems to be in a crisis. But this is not the reason for all the protests. The reason is that on May 25th, George Floyd was killed because of police brutality, because an American police officer was kneeling on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And for the last 2 minutes and 53 seconds, there was no reaction from George Floyd, but the police officer just kept his knee on his neck. He didn't budge. And George Floyd died because of this. There were some reports that apparently he was on drugs, but the autopsy report has shown that he died because of a lack of oxygen, which means he died because of the officer's brutality and kneeling on his neck. And why did he do that? Apparently George Floyd paid with a fake $20 bill in a store. That's it. Nothing worse. But that is the reason why they treated him in the way they did. And this whole instance has shocked the whole entire country and the whole entire world, because it was filmed and ended up on social media for everyone to see. And as a consequence, people started going on the streets, protesting against racism, against violence against blacks, and against police brutality. Most of these protests are peaceful, but some appear to be very violent. But apparently, some institutions or the government or the police, somebody has planted bricks on the streets for people to pick and then throw. So this violence seems to be orchestrated and kind of provoked from some institution. So don't believe everything that you hear in the media. In addition to that, President Donald Trump doesn't seem to be calming down the situation necessarily, because he tweeted, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." And that was really frustrating to all the people that were protesting in peace, and as a result, more protests sparked all over the world, not only in the United States, but also all over Europe. There are protests going on. I've seen a lot of protests in a lot of German cities, but also over 200,000 people were protesting in France. But why do I speak about this? I feel the obligation to speak about this because what's happening in the United States right now is so important for Europe as well. We can really learn from all the events that are going on there, because racism isn't only happening in the United States, it's happening all over Europe as well. And we might consider ourselves very open-minded because we are close neighbors with different cultures and different languages, and we have all those exchange programs like Erasmus, and we travel a lot. We spend our summer vacation in Italy, we go skiing in France, we make a weekend trip to London. So we feel very open-minded and connected, but racism is still a problem. If you look at the refugee crisis or Brexit, all of those issues sparked because of racism. Because racism isn't necessarily black against white, it is a minority against a majority. So that could be any culture, any religion, any skin color. It can happen to anyone. So if we as Europeans say we aren't racist, we are very open-minded, it doesn't mean that we are not racist. It means that we are not aware of the prejudice that we have. Because ignorance is also a form of racism. Because let's be honest, racism is deeply ingrained into our culture and our history, into our language. We had wars all over Europe for centuries. And if you say, I have never thought about somebody's skin color or their origin, that doesn't mean that you aren't racist. It only means that you are not aware of your own beliefs. But what is racism? I looked up a definition and I found one in the Cambridge Dictionary which said, racism is the belief that people's qualities are influenced by their race and that members of other races are not as good as the members of your own, or the resulting unfair treatment of members of other races. In my German video, I quoted Ibram x Kendi, and I tried to translate his definition into English, so I hope it's more or less correct. But he said, any idea that determines that one ethnic group is inferior or superior than another ethnic group is racism. So racism isn't only an individual action from somebody against somebody else, it's a whole entire system. And racism has different layers. So there are different levels, and one is the society level, the racism that we find in our everyday life. But there's also the structural level that includes certain people from positions in public service or politics. And there is the extremist level, so the right-wing terror. So racism is in different layers in our society and our history. And it's important to point out that racism is a system that was built intentionally to favor one group over another, to put people in an advantage and other people into a disadvantage. And the key word is intentionally, and it being a system. And it being a system makes it so difficult to tear it down because it favors so many people. So why would we change it if we are in favor of it? And us as white Europeans and white Americans, we are favored by racism. And we need to become aware of how privileged we are. But it is important to point out that human races do not exist. Only the idea or the invention of human races, it's only a thought construct in order to favor some people and disadvantage others. So what can we do as a collective and an individual? So first of all, become aware of your own thoughts and words and actions, because we all have racist beliefs and patterns and habits inside of us. And the first step is to become aware of them so that we can then change them. Also, speak up. Speak about racism in your community, in your family, on your social media platforms. Start a dialogue with minorities. Be open to learn from them. Because if two white people talk about racism, how are we supposed to find a solution? We have to talk to the minorities. They can teach us so much and we can learn so much to change our behavior. Also, use your influence. We are all influencers because we all have influence over other people. So use that influence for something good. You can do it on social media or in your private life, but use it for something good. And actions speak louder than words. So start supporting businesses that are led by minorities, or donate if you can. Just put in the action to create change. And step in and speak up if you experience racism. If you see someone being treated unfairly, step in, speak up, create change in your life and somebody else's life, and change your perspective, because a lot of times we aren't aware of how privileged we are. But really change your point of view, be open-minded, think outside the box. What would it feel like if you were a minority? How would you be treated differently? Just open up to that thought and educate yourself. There are so many resources out there for free because of the internet that we can use to really educate ourselves on the topic. There are podcasts, videos, articles, social media platforms, and everyone's sharing information. I will also share resources that I have found very helpful below in the info box, so please check those out. But also share yours with me, because I always want to learn something new, and I would be very grateful if you could share what has helped you to really educate yourself and form an opinion. On a higher level, it is not enough to just portray or present minorities in the media. We have to give minorities more influence, more power. We have to invite them to the table where decisions are made. Minorities need to be given positions of influence, and they need to be made part of the decision-making process. So it's important that minorities gain more influence so that they can create change. And as the author Elise Hesters said, anti-racism isn't a sprint, it is a marathon. This is something we will have to deal with until we have finally resolved it. We have to start today. We should have started yesterday, but we didn't, so we have to start today. This has been going on for way too long, for centuries. Because, as Will Smith said, racism isn't getting worse, it's getting filmed. So this has been a problem all along, and only now are we really raising awareness and talking about it. And I mean, it's the 21st century, it's so overdue. And nowadays, we have our social media platforms. We are so connected to really create change and raise awareness. So please speak up. And if you don't want to do it on social media, please do it in private. But please share this video or this message with other influencers, because I feel like influencers should speak up. They have such a big following. They have so much influence and power, like politicians and the media. They can really create change. And with that job comes the responsibility to use that influence for something good and to speak up. And I've seen a couple of influencers saying, hey, I don't want to share any wrong information because I'm not as educated as I would like to be right now. So I want to educate myself first and then share information, which I think is absolutely valid. You don't want to share wrong information. However, you shouldn't hide behind that excuse. So if you are an influencer, just let your audience be part of your learning process. Whenever you find something new, just share it with them or ask your followers for resources and reading materials. Just start a dialogue and use all the power and influence you have for something good. And this video isn't about shaming people. It is really just about raising awareness. And I know that I also have to learn so much about this topic, and to really see and learn how privileged I am, I need to become more aware of my privilege as well. So in no way am I trying to shame anyone. So that is my opinion about this topic. I'm really interested to hear your opinion and to learn about your experience. Please share it with me in the comments below. Let me know if you have ever experienced racism and what resources have helped you to form an opinion. And that is it for this video. I really hope that you have learned something new and that you are inspired to create change. You can follow me on Instagram. On there, I also share resources or posts that I found very helpful. And you can also subscribe to my channel if you want to. And please also thumbs up this video to share some love. And then I'm gonna see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye.